We are back here. Shane, you're gonna laugh or something? Let it go, man. Show some emotion. We're back here on the FanCred app, recapping Championship Sunday, but not too much recapping because we have our 72-hour rule. Don't want to really go over that too
or
much.
anyone out.
But we'll still cover the headlines. We got
Mhm.
plenty to talk about today, despite being just 2 games this past weekend. Unfortunately, the football season is dwindling away, but we got a break this week, and then we got the grand finale of them all, the Super Bowl down in Tampa. And we'll get to coverage on that, previewing soon. But today we got a ton to talk about, and even better than recapping these 2 games, we're going to do our first outside segment of the past 6 shows. We've been really strict to recapping games so far, but today we got something special. One of my favorite things to do because all I know about is quarterbacks and head coaches and teams in this league. The quarterback carousel, going to be the number 1 story of this offseason. It's going to be thrilling. It's my favorite thing in sports more than anything is the quarterback carousel. When I'm watching any game, more than any news, just pairing up quarterbacks. Nothing gives me more fun than that. It's like a big puzzle.
Yeah. No, and Cole, I'm looking forward to it. We have a lot of guys to talk about. There's a lot of different interesting situations. Where will Nick Mullins end up? What are your Jets going to do with Sam Darnold? There's so much that goes into it. People don't realize this. Close to half of the league is looking for a new quarterback situation. We know the guys. We know Kansas City, Green Bay, Seattle, those teams sticking with their guy.
Well, according to the media, Aaron Rodgers is on his way out of Green Bay, which is just ridiculous. But
he made it clear today he's sticking around.
Shout out Pat McAfee, best show out there.
Yeah, but
honestly, that's the only show that's better than ours. It's just the Pat McAfee show.
But yeah, should we start off? Let's start off with a recap of the games. Let's start with Tampa Bay, Green Bay.
Yeah, so as everyone is coming in, before we start, hold your horses for a second. Anyone who's new to the FanCred app, if you want to join Shane and I on the show, all you got to do, click that green fan line button. You go backstage with our awesome producer, Cameron. He'll help you out. He'll get you on the show and come prepared with a question or topic of conversation. We're down to talk about anything, whether it's quarterbacks, coaches, offseason, backup quarterbacks, kickers, whatever you want to talk about. We're down to have a conversation about it. Last show, we had 5 or 6 people come onto the fan line.
That was
really
awesome.
Fun stuff. Kept the show fast-paced and moving. Guarantee if people come on, you'll be here until 9 o'clock. I'll make that, as Aaron Rodgers said, there's no guarantees in football, but the only guarantees you'll be here towards the end if we get the fan line popping today. So we got some great guests prepared for today coming on. It's going to be a really fun show. And I guess we'll start from the top. Tampa Bay 31, Green Bay 26. We all know what happened in the game, but let's cover some headlines. Shane, you've heard plenty from me over all these group chats that we're in, over my thoughts on the game. I plastered all over social media. And I'll say one thing, and I always say this. Everyone in sports today has some sort of an agenda they always keep.
Mm-hmm.
And while people give a lot of people criticism for that, I always stick to my agenda. And I give myself a little bit of credit because you gotta face when you're wrong sometimes when you're right. And in this case, I put all my eggs in one basket for Aaron Rodgers. I said that he was going to have the greatest playoff run for a quarterback in NFL history, mostly based off of the defenses that I thought he was going to be playing. But after he tore up the Rams, I was like, maybe there's a chance.
Yeah, and it was looking good.
Yeah, but then, he I wouldn't say he fell apart. We'll get into that in a bit on what actually happened, how we're supposed to really evaluate him on this game in the grand scheme of things. But I really devoted my predictions towards Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't work out. And of course, there's my Brady bias, but we'll talk about that in a second. And just really giving a firm evaluation now that we've been able to sleep on it for a few days of what actually happened in this game. So I'll let you give your thoughts first. What are your major takeaways from this game?
Well, for Tampa or Green Bay or just both in general?
How about we start with Green Bay?
So with Green Bay, I want to talk about the pass interference. We don't have to go in depth on debating it just because I think there's a few different ways to look at it. Cole, I want to start off with what's blatantly obvious, and that was LaFleur's decision to kick a field goal with 2 minutes left. So my biggest thing was everyone was crapping on LaFleur, as they should have. I think when you have that quarterback and wide receiver tandem of Rodgers and Devontae Adams, how do you not, try to force something in? And you have A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams in the backfield. You can at least try to stretch a run play and score. I was looking for that there. Rodgers doesn't tuck it and run. I think you and I both thought he should have done that on that play.
But have you seen those additional angles that have been circling around social media lately? And just, that was my first instinct. I was one of those people yelling at the TV,
how do you
not run, like screaming. And now I'm seeing all these additional footages, especially the one that's the really cool angle, which is, from behind Rodgers' view, not from the side TV view. And you see he's got 3 of the fastest defenders in football, coming right for his back. And then you see on the outside, he has that whole lane clogged. I mean, personally, my biggest complaint was not that he should have went and scored the touchdown, but at least get, 3 or 4 yards and slide, and then give yourself more of a manageable situation on 4th down. That's why when they had, it was probably 7 to 8 yards out. Of course you can score on that, but your chances are very, very low considering how well Tampa Bay was playing and that just the red zone passing offense wasn't working too well for Green Bay, especially with them locking up Adams, who's the number 1 threat in the red zone. So I'll let you get your decision on LaFleur right now, but I had some takeaways on that.
Well, I just look I think in the heat of the moment in the NFC Championship game, you have the best quarterback in football this year, right? And we were shown on Sunday the Packers defense is good, not great. That's exactly how I would describe them. Keep the ball in Rodgers' hands. I mean, Mason Crosby has only gotten worse as the years have gone on, but that was a gimme for him to hit it from 30 yards out? You need to give Rodgers that opportunity. And back to what you were saying about that angle. And Cole, I saw a TikTok on it, and I forget who made it. It was brilliant. Shout out to you. You see it from Rodgers' view, and you see Devin White and Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. You're like, no duh, he wouldn't tuck it and run it. That makes sense. He's going to get clobbered. He's going to get his clock clean. But he had Devontae Adams for a split second on that play.
I saw that.
Rodgers is known for that.
But he hesitated for a second.
Throw, it's a whole different ballgame. And I'm not saying Rodgers should have done this, there's so many different ways to look at it. I just look at it like LaFleur put them in that situation. Well, it actually just goes back to the Equanimous St. Brown drop, which changed, in my opinion, everything later on that went, everything that happened later on in the game. That drop changed their scoring situation, going for 2 later on, kicking a field goal. So what were your thoughts on that?
On what? The impact of that drop?
The impact of that drop, yeah.
Well, now I got to think back. I mean, that was a killer because it was a great drive, and then they give it to him, and he's wide open, and that's as blatant of a drop. That's as inexcusable of a drop as it comes. And that was just really poor to see. It was just one of those things that's going to bite them back in the ass later in the game. But in terms of LaFleur's decision, I'll play devil's advocate here. Considering the way that Tom Brady was playing and how the Packers defense was playing, it was a very realistic chance that they were able to stop Brady. And they were very close to. And then you mentioned briefly that pass interference call, which was, just the consistency factor of it. Maybe, you take your chances there. But at the same time, do you trust Rodgers to go down and score, 1 touchdown in a minute and 30 seconds or less? A minute. That's unlikely as well. So I think that had to be considered too.
Yeah.
But, Brady didn't do anything on that. People are saying, oh, how could you put the ball in Brady's hands there? But what? Brady had 1 pass for, I think, 6 yards on that drive, maybe?
On the final one, you're saying?
I think he had 1 completion on the final drive for 6 yards.
But he didn't need, Cole, the thing was, though, he didn't need, it was, they needed to run the ball.
They needed to run the ball, exactly. And they had to stop them, and then they came very close. And look, I said this to you. Both that and Rodgers' interception were both defensive pass interferences. I think we can agree on that. I think they both were.
So you agree? No, I agree with the Allen Lazard play where he clearly got held.
Yeah, no, both of them were DPIs, but you have to be consistent.
Yeah, no, and
they didn't throw a single flag in the first half until 12 men on the field. This was a game that was gritty. People were grabbing at each other. And it was an all-time flop by I forgot what his name was. Tyler Johnson on the Buccaneers. I knew he had a very generic name like that. Now I would say that was a flop, but no, he was definitely holding on him. I definitely said it's a DPI, especially in that moment. But it's an interesting situation. I see I don't think it was a bonehead decision by LaFleur. I'll say that.
Okay.
I think it was a calculated decision, but would I probably have put the ball in Rodgers' hands? Yeah, and I think Rodgers wanted the ball too, which I think that's the most important thing.
Because
I think Shane, I think there was a miscommunication between the two. Because after the game, when Rodgers comes out and says, "Wasn't my decision," that's keyword for one thing. I didn't agree with what Coach did.
And you make a great point, and why I also would have kept Rodgers on the field and put the ball in Rodgers' hands. You saw the soundbite of him going up to the defense after they scored. They said, "You guys need to make a stop." He looked at Chandon Sullivan, Kevin King, and Will Redmond, the three worst corners on that team, and I think they're all bottom 20 in football. They said, "You guys need to make a play." And I don't want to get too in depth on, a cornerback and how he performed, but Kevin King was absolutely atrocious, along with Chandon Sullivan. I don't know if you caught this, but on the Bucs' first drive when they're going down the field before the Mike Evans touchdown, I think it was Chris Godwin ran an out route, and he catches it, and they get a first down. Chandon Sullivan pushes him out of bounds, and Troy Aikman was like, "And here's the weakest part of this defense." And then just blatantly said that, and it was clear because, look, they did that the whole game, and I think that's what set the Bucs up for success. They weren't Jair Alexander is a total different story. That guy put his heart on the line for his team. I mean, he totally balled out, but 2 interceptions. But I just look at it. It was total miscommunication. You're right about that. And I understand the consistency part, but I also saw a graphic where it was the Fox NFC Championship game logo in the top right corner, and they put that in between where Kevin King was holding Tyler Johnson's shirt, and it was blatant. And look, if you're not going to call PI, it's still holding. It's a first down either way. So it was clearly there.
It was something. It was a penalty. It was a penalty. Yeah. We can go into specifics, but it was a penalty. So, really unfortunate thing that the Packers weren't able to come away with this game, giving Rodgers another shot at the Super Bowl. But I want to know your perception of him from just, an outside perspective, if I'm trying to get the right wording right here. It's the constant talk about legacy and this and that, especially against Brady and how he only has one NFC championship. And we can go down and do his whole history right now of how his defenses and coaching have failed him. You look what Mike McCarthy is doing right now. Clearly, it was a huge downside for Rodgers throughout his career. But overall, I mean, does this change your perception of him? Is he this playoff choker, or did you see what you needed to see from him in this game?
He's not a playoff choker, and does it affect his legacy? Yes, because I think at his age, coming down to the wire. No, I don't want to say coming down to the wire. He has a few years left. I think we can all agree on that. This was his best shot, and I think now that we look at it, and Kansas City just went pedal to the metal against Buffalo. They showed them no mercy, just totally attacked them and went at them. I look at it, and I don't know if the Packers would have beaten the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs over the Packers as my playoff/Super Bowl pick. But this was definitely Rodgers' best shot. Now, going forward, everyone showed the statistic that Brady now has as many NFC Championship wins as Brees and Rodgers, and he's done that in 1 year. I think that's something to look at. But you can also look at the circumstances of the team's Brady's first year in Tampa, how stacked of a team he's played with, and that defense especially. But then you see the other memes, and it's like Rodgers has as many NFC Championship wins as Rex Grossman. And then I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, he has the same amount of NFC Championship wins as Jimmy Garoppolo. So there's definitely different ways to look at it. But cool. And I know you're a massive fan of Rodgers. He's the most talented quarterback ever. And I know stats may say one thing, and win-loss record and, playoff record, 1-4 in the NFC Championship game certainly doesn't cover it. But he's 1-0 in the Super Bowl. He has that ring. He has that legacy. I think he's a consistent performer. I think when people turn their back on him and like to, talk crap about him the most is when he shines the most. And he's cool. He's going to win his 3rd MVP award.
Yeah, no. I mean, you can't take away his regular season achievements. He had a spectacular year for Green Bay. But look, again, it's just unfortunate, in my opinion, that he wasn't able just to step up for one more drive at the end and really figure it out. And, people always look, I'm not a big fourth quarter stats guy because I think if you play like crap for the first 3 quarters and then you step it up in the fourth, you can't really judge your game on that.
Yeah.
And that's like the classic Tom Brady thing to do, like play like crap in the first half and then come back in the second half. Or in this game, it was actually the opposite for the first time, where he played a really nice first half.
Well, people look at the 3 interceptions and they freak out, even though I wouldn't blame 2 of them on him.
I mean, I think it's more important that he had 68 passing yards in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
He really took a massive decline in the second half. And it was crazy to see. He was throwing the game away for them. But they were able to stick it out at the end. And, I guess he did enough.
You thought he was throwing the game away?
Who, Brady? I mean, he played one of the worst halves I've ever seen him play before.
You don't think lining Carlton Davis up in single coverage with Davante Adams lost them the game? Or Mike Adams, I don't even know if his name's Mike Adams. Adams and TJ or MJ Edwards as their safeties. Both safeties are out. I mean, that was Nico. That couldn't have been easier for Rodgers when you look at it from a deep passing standpoint. I mean,
I can't believe he didn't take advantage of that. At least send MVS down the flank and give him a deep shot.
All MVS can do. And we know Davante Adams has this one route with Rodgers that just works all the time. Rodgers rolls out and just finds him. Robert Tonyan seems to get open. The Packers were driving when they were taking advantage of the weak Buccaneers secondary. And look, you can say Carlton Davis is a good corner. You can say he's not. I'm not going to sit here and argue with it because Davante Adams made him look like toast out there. He burnt him the whole game. But then, the Packers, they try to get cute. They try to run the ball. Aaron Jones was non-existent in the second half after he had 2 fumbles.
Well, he was hurt.
And I want to bring on one more point. I know he was hurt, but I want to bring on one more point. And I actually want to ask you something. They picked Jordan Love with the 28th pick in the first round. Rodgers needed more weapons. And I know he had an MVP caliber. He's going to win MVP. And he put up phenomenal stats, right? And the touchdowns and the passing yards. All he wanted was a number 2 guy. He wanted them to trade for Will Fuller. It didn't work out. Draft someone. Cool, they had the opportunity to trade up for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Reagor if you want him, or Justin Jefferson. They had all these options. They could have gotten Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whatever it is. And you pick a guy that's not seeing the field. Keep in mind, the Packers, and on top of that, Cole, their O-line was so atrocious on Sunday. I understand the Bucs pass rush, when they're hot, they can attack anyone. I mean, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea, they contain, and they are nuts. They are awesome. They are playmakers. But Cole, you draft Jordan Love, he's not seeing the field. He has no impact on the game. Did he motivate Rodgers?
I don't think he ever takes a snap for the Packers.
But that's another story. But you get what I'm saying, right? So my question to you is, do you think if Rodgers has that second weapon, a Will Fuller, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, I think it's a different ballgame. I don't know if
I think it's a much different ballgame. I think it's a much different ballgame, especially
even a right tackle. And I know Bakhtiari's hurt, so you didn't think of that. But their whole line was non-existent.
But then you can give the counter argument that Tampa Bay was down their top 2 or 3 safeties in that game, and without Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
So, and then Mike Evans didn't have the best game of his career, clearly. And, everyone's at deficiency at this time of year. It's about what you make the most out of what you have on the field. We can go play that game for hours, but, he has to play with what he has. That's exactly what happened. So moving on from that game, it will be interesting to see what happens in the offseason with Rodgers, but I think he's staying put, as we saw today in the McAfee show. And with Brady, he's heading to another Super Bowl with his team. So we'll see what happens there. And they got a complete team. They'll get Brown back. They'll get their safeties back. And it will make for an interesting game, especially with that defense stepping up against Kansas City. But the question is, can they contain them? We'll get into that next week when we really do our formal preview. We can probably sprint right through this Kansas City-Buffalo game. They won by 2 scores.
Yeah,
they won by 2 scores. There's really not much to say here. They just outclassed them, Shane. That's it. A team with more experience beat up on the little kid. And look, Josh Allen, I mean, if I have to go, I hate going into stats, but I might as well just look at how he did. 20 to 48, 287, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, rushed for 88 yards.
He was the leading rusher.
A lot of that in garbage time as well, just in the passing game. Look, not a bad game by any means by Josh Allen, but regardless, just didn't do enough. And this Chiefs team is just so good, Shane.
Yeah,
they're so good. They pound you down, and they never seem out of any game. It's crazy. You can call them the comeback kings, but it doesn't matter because they're always in this game. And Their touchdowns come on fluke mistakes every time.
Yeah.
Who was it? Miko Hardman fumbled the ball like right into the end zone
It's
like that.
9-0, and then he goes down and scores, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. So look, I'm taking this game with a grain of salt for them letting up 24 points in this one, and the defense played a spectacular game for the most part, contain this Bills offense. So I mean, they look primed to win this Super Bowl game. I think we can agree on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's cool. It's exactly that. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this game because the Chiefs were the Chiefs. The Chiefs were the team they hadn't been all of December, and the team we wanted to see them be. But it's funny you look at it because most fans, where are the Chiefs? Are they going to show up? They're not playing up to their level. And then,
well, do you remember what I was saying?
Yeah.
This whole year. Do you actually remember what I was saying?
I don't know.
I kept saying that they looked like a team that was bored and waiting for a challenge.
Yeah.
And I related it to my experiences as an athlete and whatever, playing with friends and everything. You go into a game and you're winning. What sport are we going to give an analogy for here? Whatever. You're destroying teams every game, and it gets boring, and then you don't play your highest level, and then you need that challenge, and they're finally getting that challenge, and they're picking up steam. They're in an amazing place right now, and the duo of Bieniemy and Reed looked fantastic once again, and thank goodness Mahomes looked okay in this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's just such a great sign for football. I don't even think, even if I was a Bills fan, obviously it would be amazing to go to the Super Bowl, but you'd feel a little guilty if, Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing in that game and you beat them with Chad Henne at quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily Mahomes was okay. And to me, I think everyone dropped that as soon as they won. But that was in the back of my head, Cole. It's the guy's playing with 9 toes and 25% of his brain. Like, everyone seemed to forget the fact that he was injured. And I know Eric Fisher went out and he probably tore his Achilles. Yeah. But Cole, their O-line was phenomenal. And I think I did a preview with Chris Dupuis on Friday, and he talked about how this game was going to come down to how the O-line performs for both sides. Who can win the line of scrimmage? And the Chiefs did exactly that. I know Tyreek Hill had that 71-yard catch and run, and it felt like that put the game away. Travis Kelce's 2 touchdowns, right? Miko Hardman with a burst of energy after his muff punt. But it was the line of scrimmage, and it was how they won. Mahomes was under little to no pressure the whole time, right? I think they did a good enough job running the ball with Darrell Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They looked good. They were hitting on all cylinders, and that's the Chief team we were expecting.
All right, so now we're going to get into our fan line guests. We got a huge lineup today. Some really fun stuff. I'm really looking forward to these questions. And then we'll get into our quarterback carousel, mixing some people in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe we're going to start with my good friend Ben Kreit, who's joining right now with the Tough Scene hoodie.
What's up?
How we doing?
What's going on?
I'm ready to talk some football. That's what I'm ready for.
All right, start us off.
All right. Going back to that second half Brady topic, I wanted to talk about how, first of all, nobody's even talking about how he completely self-destructed in the second half. They're just talking about how Rodgers choked the game away, which I don't think was the case. But more importantly, I think, going back to what you guys were talking about, I think the Bucs D actually played well in the second half, despite that those backups in the secondary. I think they actually held up well. And like Rodgers was getting all these opportunities, and they were forcing 3 and outs. So I think going back to Brady, I think he gave his best effort to just throw. I think he was absolutely throwing the game away. Even if the interceptions weren't his fault, he couldn't really move the ball down the field. And I thought the Bucs defense held up well. So just touching back on that.
Yeah. Cole, you want to take that as the Brady hater?
I mean, look, Ben and I talk about Brady all the time and give the stats. And historically, he hasn't been a very good player in the AFC Championship game. But again, to be in all fairness, you're playing the second best team in your conference. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to replicate your regular season numbers. But I'd be remiss not to mention that he had 68 passing yards in the second half. It's not just the 3 interceptions. It's the fact that he wasn't able to move the ball down the field, and they were completely stifled. But the fact that the Packers weren't able to seize enough momentum besides that one swing of 2 touchdowns in the middle of the second half, that's the biggest thing that they missed on. They missed on their chance to capitalize and swing this game in the other direction. They had a golden opportunity. You guys saw what Twitter was looking like. People were calling the game over at halftime. And then especially at halftime, and then they had the Aaron Jones play and the quick touchdown to start off the second half, and they're like already painting the grave for Green Bay. And then they slowly started to creep back, and then there just wasn't enough buzz, and they just never had, consistent offensive and defense and offensive possession to turn the game on its head. That's the problem right there.
Yeah, and I actually like what Ben said a lot. I agree. I think the Bucs defense held their own, but more specifically, their front seven. I think the secondary killed it for them. I understand where you guys are coming from with the Brady self-destructed. 68 passing yards in the second half is brutal, especially when you have to go up against Kevin King and Shandon Sullivan. Those guys are terrible. So we have to expect more from, him on that. But it was a wacky second half. And I think the Packers did a great job of stepping up. They got points on the board. And look, Ben, to your credit, they did hold their own, being the Tampa defense. They did hold their own. They did a good job. Devin White is a coverage monster. Right, they're making plays all over the field, but I'm going to go back to it. The LaFleur field goal killed them. It killed them. With Rodgers not being able to put the ball in his hands and to try to make anything out of it, I think that kills the game.
Yeah, going back to the field goal, just the decision, even if they weren't in, if he runs it, if he doesn't run it, no matter what position they're in, Rodgers getting the ball back with a minute 30, it would have been. Down 5, down 8, whatever it is. I think I'd rather be down 8 if they don't get it, or if they get it, obviously, then perfect. But I'd rather Tampa Bay backed up with your defense holding its own in the second half. You just have to stop a couple runs, backed up, and they're going to get better field position regardless. So I think they absolutely it destroyed the game. And just once again, Tampa Bay backed up inside their own 10. I'd rather that than Rodgers getting the ball likely on his own side of the field down, needing a touchdown to win the game with no timeouts left.
And that's actually a solid point, just because you never really know with Rodgers. I feel like it's one of those situations where we know he could get the ball at the 50 with 3 seconds left, and we know they could score on a Hail Mary. That's his God-given play. But you make a good point where if the Bucs are inside their own 10, right, and they didn't run the ball well, at least I don't think so. Playoff Lenny was kind of non-existent, and Brady's trying to make throws, and to Cole's credit, he couldn't in the second half. That's great. It's a different perspective, which I like, but the PI changes all of it.
Yeah, and when you're inside your own 10 with a guy like Brady, it's not like Lamar Jackson where he can draw this read up. He can't drop these read options. You know what you're expecting. They're backed up, they're running the ball, and you're going to get better field position if you stop them. So that's just my takeaway from it.
I think Cole got a little upset, so he left us. You're good?
Yeah, my team crashed in the second half. We're back now, though. We're back. Hold on. I'm not even connected into my computer. Keep going.
Yeah, but I agree with you. If you don't have a mobile quarterback like that inside your own 10, it's interesting to see. We don't know with Brady.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully, you guys get some bonding.
And just going ahead to the Super Bowl, you talked about how Kansas City's in prime position to win this game, which I agree with, but it's definitely nerve-wracking that Kansas City has 4 backup O linemen starting right now. With this Bucs front 7, anything could happen. So I'm definitely nervous, rooting against Brady as always. I'm praying, but I'm nervous.
Ben, you like that tweet I had the other day? I've never rooted for a team this hard in years with the Green Bay.
That's exactly what I was thinking. The rare retweet from me.
Never, not a big retweet guy. He's kind of a lurker. He has that generic little picture going on there, the avatar, just the blank body, the gray. I mean, you're just like,
I move in silence.
Is it like a burner?
It's not a burner. It's just I'll retweet when necessary.
Hopefully, you're retweeting a Kansas City win in 2 weeks. I think that would be great to see.
Absolutely.
Anything else before you go?
Absolutely. Just real quick early Super Bowl predictions, because I'll give mine quickly. I'm nervous about. I predict a kind of low scoring game.
I agree completely.
Odd considering it's Kansas City, which is you never predict the low-scoring game from Kansas City, but I think Kansas City wins in a close one.
I agree with you completely. I actually think it's going to be very low scoring. I feel like whenever the Super Bowl is on CBS, it's low scoring. So I'm going to go with exactly that. I don't think another, 13-3 game from the Pats versus Rams.
13-3,
I think
yep.
more than that, but I like the Chiefs to win in a close one. It's
Should I
hard
go
to bet against Brady, though.
Should I go with the reverse jinx right here?
Just make your pick. Just make it.
My gut telling me Chiefs double digits, but that's completely backfired on all my playoff picks, picking teams win by double digits. So I guess I'll take Chiefs probably by 7 or 8, at least a touchdown.
Fade COS. Fade Cole Sports.
The best strategy in this one. All right, thanks for joining, Ben. Sorry I wasn't not able to join you for some part of it, but that's all we have from him. All right, we got Scott on next. Let's see what he has. Good.
It's coming on.
What up, guys?
There
How
he
we
is.
doing?
How you guys doing?
The
Let's
man.
hear it.
All right. So, my take on these games was I had predicted a Packers and Chiefs win. So, geez, what was wrong with my camera? Okay, so I was not surprised at all by the Chiefs-Bills result. I thought that the Bills were a very good team, but Kansas City was just too much, especially after, Patrick Mahomes going down in a playoff game is not something you want to do. So, and also, but I believe with the Packers-Buccaneers game, I think the fault is on the Packers, but also on the officials as to why Green Bay could not get it done. As the pass interference calls with the hand checking and with the secondary, that was going on all game. Nothing was being called in the secondary. So when that pass interference was called on Tyler Johnson on that third down, I did not think that was pass interference for 2 reasons. Actually, 3 reasons. 1, they had not called that all game. 2, Tyler Johnson flopped very badly. And 3, that ball did not look very catchable to me.
Yeah, and Scott, I understand that. My biggest thing was what did it for I wasn't sure the whole game. The first thing I did after that play was I kept refreshing Twitter because I wanted to see what everyone else had to say because I wasn't really sure how to look at it because we saw it was the line judge I think that threw the flag who's 25 yards away and you're like, oh my God, maybe they just blew this for the Packers. And then for me personally, I look back at it and I'm like, did Tyler Johnson flop? Yes. Totally. He sold the play. Was that a catchable ball? No. But, maybe if Kevin King isn't grabbing a shirt, can Tyler Johnson make a play? We don't know. If I'm Brady, I'm certainly not going to him on third down like that, not Tyler Johnson at least. I understand the Kevin King matchup where you want to target him. To me, that makes sense based on what we saw earlier in the game. But if you're tugging on the jersey like that, I think it has to be called. And my issue with that call was I think it was there. I think it was either PI or holding. We can, it could be a billion different things, but it's the consistency of it. And that's what bothered me is, you're not calling that all game. We saw it with Alan Lazard. I think we saw it.
It was a late flag too. That's the other thing. It was a big moment. It was a big moment of suspense. That play happened. Everyone looked at each other to throw a flag, and then out of nowhere they threw the flag. So that was a huge factor. I think if they threw it right off the bat, that means it was a confident call. But he definitely second guessed himself. Again, it was a penalty, and I see Pranjay in the comments right here saying he flopped, but it was still a jersey tug.
It was exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. It was there was obviously a jersey tug, but Johnson sold it so much that they threw the flag. But even though I watched that play like 10 times after the game, I do not think, even without the jersey tug, I do not think he would have caught that ball. He let him too much. It was also high. I do not think that would have been caught.
I think if Kevin King's covering you, anything is possible. I might have gone up to catch that ball.
That guy had a rough game, and the play right before halftime, what was it, like the 40-yard touchdown? I pointed to that as the reason why the Buccaneers won because there's 6 seconds to go in the half, and if they hold them to a field goal there, they can kick a field goal at the end of the game and win it instead of just getting down 5.
Yeah.
So blowing that coverage on Scotty Miller just utterly blew that game for me. And speaking of that field goal decision, I actually think Matt LaFleur was right to kick it.
Wow.
I actually think it wasn't a bad idea because if you look at it, they had 3 chances from the 8 to get in the end zone. They couldn't even move the ball a yard. So I think he had lost a little faith in the offense. Yes, I would put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands in any case scenario. But the Packers' defense has been so good all year long. It has, and they have shown that they had shown in that game that other than Kevin King, that the defense was able to hold up. So when it came down to it, Matt LaFleur trusted his defense and it didn't work out. It happens all the time. That's what the 49ers did last year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So trusting your defense, I think it was the smart decision. It just didn't work out because on 4th and goal and you need 8 yards when you haven't been able to move the ball very well all day, I think it was smart to take your points there.
Yeah, and the game can't just come down to one play. It's an accumulation of so many
Exactly.
different things that happen.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
think about all those moments in the mid-second half where they went 3 and out in like 3 straight possessions. It was crazy. He had the ball, and it was frustrating to watch. I was like, "Come on, bro!" Like,
like
clock's ticking, man.
Yeah, and especially like in the 3rd quarter when they had 3 straight interceptions. What did they score once off of that?
Yeah, you can't.
They didn't take
Yeah,
advantage.
they didn't
of the
take
chances they
advantage
got.
of the turnover opportunities. And
Listen, it's not even just taking advantage of the turnover opportunities, but when you get a turnover and you score in the next possession, that's double momentum right there.
Mhm.
You're if you're like gonna put this in math terms right now, you're like doubling your momentum because you're having 2 huge shifts. You know, it's 2 forces, right and right. So the fact that they were just able to get that big jolt and then it just came crashing down and again and back and forth. Capitalize again. It's a completely different game.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that Aaron Rodgers, like I think it was Shane that said it, he is the most talented quarterback of all
Mhm.
time, and that the Packers need to help him more. Taking Jordan Love, I honestly think they did that just to piss him off, so he would have an MVP. He would have an MVP year. Yeah, and so I think that if the Packers need to, I don't know how much cap room they have, but I know with the picks that they have, they need to draft like a Terrace Marshall or Rashad Bateman. They need another.
Yeah, they need another wide receiver too, at least.
Exactly. Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league, in my opinion. Alan Lazard is inconsistent. I don't really like him all that
Scott,
much.
that's the biggest thing. Then we don't know. It was similar to the Lakers. I mean, they obviously have LeBron and AD, but we didn't know who their number 3 was when they were going for that championship. Similar to the Packers,
Mm-hmm.
You know you can run the ball with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams.
Absolutely.
You know
Aaron
Rodgers can get down to the 1 every play, and he's going to find Robert Tonyan for that dunk pass, excuse me. But you need to compliment Devontae Adams. And look, if it means that much, the Packers should trade up to 1 and, pick Trevor Lawrence, and Rodgers will throw for 60 touchdowns.
Just to say to Paranji here in the comments here, they had the top scoring offense in the NFL, but look at their matchups. They played, 12 games against teams below 500?
Exactly.
They had a very easy schedule. Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the NFL. He is unguardable, in my opinion. Aaron Jones is a great power back, great down in the red zone. Cornerback Jair Alexander is perfectly
top
fine.
2.
But they could use some more depth down there. Linebacker, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith are both good. They could use someone in the middle, but you need the defense. The defensive line especially is very good. And the Packers defense is pretty well balanced out. Aaron Rodgers does not have enough help on offense to make the Packers a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Yep.
Trust me, I should revert on that. They were a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but you need to have look at the Chiefs. They have legitimate wide receiver 2 and Sammy Watkins or Mecole Hardman, however you want to look at it. And look at the Buccaneers. They have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Every good team has 2 elite wide receivers that win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, the Buccaneers didn't get much production out of Mike Evans in that game, and I wouldn't call Hardman or Watkins. They're good for some spark plays once in a while, but they're clearly not consistent enough to be a wide receiver 2.
Comes in.
But then there's Kelsey.
You have
the 2. Yeah, you do have the 2, and you have the running game. That's always good with this Kansas City team. So before you go, Scott, any last thoughts?
one thing I'll give actually respond to this. The 49ers, keyword I said, win the Super Bowl. The 49ers' second wide receiver, you could actually make the argument, was George Kittle. So, but last thought I'll leave you guys with is my own Super Bowl prediction, which I disagree with the last guy. I believe there's going to be a shootout, very high-scoring game, and I do not think you're going to be able to outduel Patrick Mahomes. So Brady is going to put up a very valiant fight. I hate him with every bone in my body, but I do not think that he'll be able to get it done. I think the Chiefs repeat.
We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on. We hope
Thank
to
you,
see you
Scott.
next week.
Anytime, yeah.
So,
Hopefully.
these calls are going well. So why don't we bring on Phil from last week, who we had a fantastic conversation. We'll bring him back again. Our new friend of the show, and see what he has to say.
Here we go.
What's going on?
How are we doing?
Thank you guys.
Oh my God! Look at that
Hey, Brett.
fan in the background.
Big Brett, baby.
Who would have thought
so,
of that to be on the wall?
I know, man. So a couple thoughts. First off, family full of Packer fans, so I got a soft spot for them. Unfortunately, I chose the wrong team, but it's a story for a different day. I think personally, the Packers lost that game in the offseason. Shane, I know you guys got into it a little bit. There were, really two big plays. I think one's kind of flying under the radar. First of all, the play to end the half. Kevin King, God, that guy, terrible. Horrible. How do you let Scotty Miller run by you? But that happens.
Did you see what Chris Carter said about that?
What?
Do you see what Chris Carter said about that? I believe it was Chris Carter. He said that the only reason why he got by him is that he underestimated a white receiver going down the sideline, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, what is that guy? Our height? 5'8"? And he just
but he runs a 4.3.
Right,
he runs a 4.3. But even if you run a 4.5, it doesn't matter. And I think who said it at halftime? It was Terry said it at halftime. He comes out and he's like, in that situation, why are you not where'd he go? There he is. Why are you not playing with more cushion going back there? They receiver go behind you as a corner. He just got smoked on the last play. What else is Brady? Brady had two options there. He's either throw the ball down on the flank, or he was going to throw a quick out and get 4 or 5 yards and settle for a field goal.
Exactly.
What was he thinking? He's just a bad player.
It was very reminiscent of Jets Raiders. What was that, week 13 or 14, where they were in a cover zero, no safety help.
Craig Williams special.
Dr. He was dialing it up. But the other play that I don't think people are talking enough about. So you're going to have to – I was out to lunch with my girlfriend, so I was listening in the car. What a fun way to spend championship
Sunday.
But the drop by St. Brown on the 2-point conversion. Now that changes the whole dynamic of the game.
I agree.
They said, it was tipped. I saw the replay. That ball has to be caught. I don't care who you are. But granted, what is he, their fourth wide receiver probably? Maybe 5? How they don't draft a skill position player with the first pick. And Cole, you said it. I agree with you. Jordan Love's never going to play a snap for the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers are going to trade him this offseason and give Rodgers an extension.
As they should.
Doesn't he have 3 years left in his contract?
He has 3 years left. He said he wants a new deal, though. He said he wants more money, and he can't.
He earns it. Yeah, no. Look, I don't think he's going to be able to play until. Look, now we're about the longevity of quarterbacks, and I love this conversation. Brady's an outlier because Brady's playing style throughout his career has not caused him to take too many hits. He hasn't sustained many major injuries throughout his career, and he gets better training and health care than any other athlete I could probably name, maybe second to LeBron James. This guy gets everything he wants from a health perspective. So I'm not surprised at all that he's aging back right now, and he's throwing faster than he's ever had, and he's throwing harder than he's ever had. He looks fantastic right now. He's not going to slow down. That's an outlier. Then you have a guy like, you give your examples of Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, and especially with Manning, that's a guy multiple injuries throughout the end, and Manning was struggling with all his back issues. There's a reason why those two guys deteriorated towards their career. But with Rodgers, he's had some significant. I believe he has 2 collarbone breaks, and probably. I mean, I assume that he's hurt his knee throughout his career. I feel like every player does in football, but could he play until he's 43? Who knows? I think he caps it off at 40 or 41. I mean, what are you extending to a 5-year contract? I mean, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking you probably throw on another year or two and give him, what he wants. I think you look at a team like the Packers. I mean, they're 1 or 2 guys away, in my opinion. If you get a number 2 wide receiver and someone to go across from Jair Alexander, I think you got it. I mean, Rashawn Gary took a big step this year. Mm-hmm. Everyone was quick to hate on him. He had a rough first year, but I mean, listen, he had a great year this year from what I watched and, my family's chitter chatter. The guy was in the backfield, causing, I don't want to give the Leonard Williams, but it sounded like he was always there, But if you get a corner, you get a wide receiver, that team's window's wide open.
Yeah. And
Rodgers is going to play well for the next at least 2 or 3 years, at least. And you look at a team like the Saints, and I think their window's closed.
Mm-hmm.
So the Packers drafting Jordan Love. I mean, listen, I personally actually like Jordan Love. I thought he was, I think he has a shot. I don't want to say, he was good, but it just didn't make sense, especially trading up to get the guy.
Yeah, they traded up to get him, and Scott said it, our last caller, it's fuel to the furnace, right? And Rodgers looks at it. He gets super intoxicated the night they draft Love, but other than that, it's just working to get better and working for another Super Bowl. I think that's the craziest part, and I agree with you. They're a couple pieces away from being that team, being the Chiefs. In my opinion, you could say, and I think there's still value for Love just because we've never seen him play. They took him, I think, 28th overall, close to it. The fact that they passed on a wide receiver amazes me. It blows my mind, especially with the talent on the board that they could have traded up for. But you have to reevaluate, and I understand why Rodgers is asking for that new deal because Phil and Cole, if 44 touchdowns, I think, maybe more, 4,000 passing yards, right? The best receiver in football, yes, but no real second option. Like, I would want the bag too. I'd want all that money too if you're doing it with.
How about this, Shane? Do you ask for more money if the main goal is to give your team pieces to take the next step?
So you can work around. That.
Mentality. You restructure your contract a bit, and you say, "All right, I'm taking the sacrifice right now to restructure my contract and to give the team more flexibility. But boy, if you don't do anything with that, there is no excuses. I will force my way out of here. I will crap on your franchise. You have to capitalize. All the smart minds around this organization, you guys need to take advantage of any flexibility I am giving you guys. That's the fine line right there."
I don't even know if it has to be a pay cut necessarily or a take away, turning his guaranteed money into a bonus or whatsoever, but maybe that next contract that Phil talked about, whether it's 2 or 3 years or it could be up to 5, make it like a Tom Brady deal, right? Brady's deal with the Bucs is 2 years, $50 million. Take the 25 instead of the 34, the 35. Go out and get your number 2 receiver. There's guys this offseason, Kenny Golladay, Will Fuller. I could name even Sammy Watkins. So those are guys you need, and if they can get a guy like that, I think they're separated from the rest.
I'll be honest with you guys. You guys are a lot nicer than me. If I was Rodgers, I'd stick my middle finger up to the Packers, take as much money as possible, because look at the draft. This wide receiving class, you draft someone, you already got them on a team-friendly deal. Mm-hmm. Look at Justin Jefferson. I mean, he produced – there were guys, through the 5th round that were producing. And, from what I'm reading about, this next draft class is just as good, if not better, than the past one.
Yeah, especially a wide receiver.
Yeah, a guy like Rondale Moore could fall to, the Packers with their first pick. And I think he's a perfect guy to pair up with Devontae. A speedy guy. If you put him in with kind of what the Niners do on offense, right, where you're running the jet sweeps, you're putting guys in motion, that guy is crazy. You don't want him, lined up against you. You get him, he's a great compliment, and I think you're right there.
Yeah.
But, my final thought, unlike everyone else, Jets fan my whole life. Hated Tom Brady. Love him now. Love watching him. Cheer for him. Bucks 27, Chiefs 24. Final.
Wow, there we go.
That's our first Bucks one of the show.
There it is. There it is.
I wouldn't be
Thank
surprised if the panel goes full red for the Chiefs next week, but we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping for the Bucks, but we'll see. But thank you guys for having me on. Pleasure.
Awesome.
See you next
We'll
week.
see you.
Always. All right, we're gonna bring on Sammy right now. I guess we're gonna let the carousel stick until the offseason. Maybe that's next week's segment because we're getting some really good callers right now. So our good friend Sammy Sherry is gonna join. There we go, dude.
Sammy.
What happened? Oh no, he's gone. He's gone.
We won't talk about the Bills if he doesn't want to.
No, we gotta address it first. He'll come back. All right,
He'll talk about it.
we're on hold right now.
Does Sammy?
Hold on.
I want to know if Sammy still thinks Allen is up there for MVP. If someone
It's a regular season award, though. It is. It's a regular season award. That I just don't understand why every sport keeps it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Unless they do the voting, the regular season ends or the day after. I don't understand why still after all these years they hold it after the playoffs because it just has so much recency bias involved with it. Sammy, man,
How we doing?
I'm disappointed because I thought I was going to get to see you jump through a table if the Bills won the Super Bowl, but I guess that was the price we had to pay.
Jumping through any tables as they were unfortunately unable to do it. I am somewhat disappointed that Josh Allen did not come through, but I want to talk about the spread on the Super Bowl. So I know it's early still, but the spread is only 3.5 for Kansas City. I know technically it's a home game for Tampa in the 55 Super Bowls, the only time this has ever happened, the first time. And
That's
I want to say, though, 3.5 points, for Kansas City. I was thinking it should be closer to like 7.5 because I feel like Kansas City going to win by at least 2 scores. I think they were juggernaut, and that we saw the one game Kansas City, I guess, really lost was to the Raiders. And the Raiders put up over 30 points. If you don't put up 35 points, you're just not going to win. So I don't think Tom Brady could put up 35 points, and I don't think Leonard Fournette or Jones could run to that amount either. So unless they could get very lucky on the defensive side, which, again, you could stop Mahomes, but he's going to have that one quarter. The Chiefs always have that one quarter where they go for at least 20 points. They may be playing terrible the whole game. That one quarter may come in the first, the second, the third, or the fourth. You don't know when, but it's bound to happen. And when they do strike, I don't think Tampa could come back and score 3 TDs and get back in it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a big point. We talked about that with the Packers, how they weren't able to string together consecutive scores and shift the momentum more than just have little jolts. The Chiefs are – no one in sports does it better than the Chiefs right now of stringing together momentum moments and making them into a giant push to win the game. That's the biggest thing. If they can get the ball rolling like that and then turn into a boulder by the end of the game, I don't think, as you said, the Buccaneers are going to have the firepower to keep up with them. But going back to the spread, I was shocked when I saw it was 3.5. And look, both of us are not the greatest at predictions and stuff. I hate predictions. I think it's the biggest crapshoot in the entire world. But 3.5 seems a little funky. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I expected at least 5. I feel like that to me was the minimum. If I had to guess the line, I would have said Chiefs by 5.5. To me, that made sense. I agree with you, Sammy, though. 7.5 seems, I think, realistic because then if you're Las Vegas, everyone putting money on the game looks at it like, oh my, do the Bucs keep it within 1 score? The Chiefs going to blow them out. There's different ways to look and go about this. I have to agree. I'm shocked too. I think we all sit there now and we view it as if you're betting on the game, 3.5 seems like a gimme. If you truly believe the Chiefs are going to win outright, but you never know. You never know with Tom Brady, especially.
It's true, but again, Mahomes is the current quarterback of the league. Brady, yes, he may be the past, and this may be his 10th Super Bowl, but when you look at it, yes, his ratio is very good, but when you look at it, winning 6, losing 4, or losing 3, I guess, it's still a lot of losses. yes, that's 66% chance of winning, but when you look at guys like Montana, it's 100%. So I personally think they're going to get I think the Bucks are going to get blown out, honestly.
Wow.
I think it's going to be lopsided. Two scores at least. If they don't win by 2 scores, I'm going to be very surprised.
The you know what, Sammy, the Chiefs owe it to you after not letting you jump on a table for the Bills to win. So they owe it to you for that one. They definitely owe it to you.
That's true. I was very disappointed my Buffalo Bills couldn't get the
Sammy,
win.
You mentioned my right there. I'm telling you, bro, you have to become a Bills fan. I'm giving you the pass right now. You don't even have to fill out the bandwagon form. You can jump right on there right now. I don't know why you're a Chargers fan. I don't understand the logic behind it. I don't even want to hear Joe, can you just convert to a Bills fan?
Very bright future himself.
You broke up. You say Justin Herbert?
Yes, Justin Herbert.
But you've been this Bills bandwagon since the preseason. We had an argument on a live show. Sammy,
you're right.
It would just be so much more enjoyable. As a Jets fan, you're a Bills fan. You become a Bills fan. You already refer to them as my Bills. I mean, come on, Bill. You're much more passionate about them than the Chargers. Come on. You're from New York. You're traveling up and down to Florida.
I've never been to a Bills game, though.
Well, make that happen.
See,
you go to
games this year. Game a while back, but this is pre-Josh Allen.
Sammy, you should also keep in mind that at the rate the Chargers are going, they might move to Orange County in a few years for the lack of fans. So if you move now, you're leaving at the right time.
I mean, I think Justin Herbert is going to be our savior, so I'm still holding out hope for him, and I think he's going to be great. One of the best rookie seasons for a QB ever.
I think Herbert's going to be better. I think Herbert's going to be better than Allen, but I'm just saying it would just be more fun for you as the the eccentric guy that you are to become a Bills fan. You'd fit it like a glove. You'd feel like a glove in Buffalo.
MVP candidacy, I still think, I know it's a regular season award, so I still think he was definitely deserving of it. And he had the storyline. I mean, we won't really know until the night before the Super Bowl, I think it is. But, I mean, he brought Bills Mafia back to the spotlight. I mean, he is the perfect Buffalo quarterback.
You love them. You love them. Come on, man. Just say it.
Finish it up. But, I mean, Josh Allen should get the MVP, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
All right, I'll give the offseason to sleep on it, but come week 1, you're gonna become a Bills fan. I'll get you the jersey too.
I'll think on it. I actually don't own a Josh Allen jersey.
Well, we'll make that happen.
All righty, cool. Shane, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you. Bye.
An absolute pleasure to have on our show, Sammy Sherry, a staple. Yeah, it would be great if he becomes a Bills fan. Come on,
jump through a table for that guy.
And you can jump right on the bandwagon. Come on, yeah, I mean it's already leaving right now. It's going downhill. Do we have anyone else on the fan line right now? That's a next question. If we can knock out one more, we have 2 minutes until 9 o'clock. Maybe we can knock out one more if someone's ready. See if we get any word from our producer. If there's anyone ready to come on.
I could pretend to be someone if you want. I could beat Pat Mahomes.
Should we do it? All right, now we're actually going to add Pat Mahomes onto the fan.
Well, Cole, because we won't do a show before the Super Bowl, I'm assuming. Do you want to give your pick, your score?
No, got the Super Bowl's in 2 weeks.
Oh, we will. Yeah, we will. We will.
All right.
So we're going
to say that. So let's schedule this right now. We got Super Bowl. We can watch the Pro Bowl Madden game together. We can do callers for Super Bowl preview and just a whole preview episode. We can even do it 45 minutes if we have to. The following week, and I feel like one of the teachers giving like the announcements. We can do that, and then the following week, Super Bowl recap, and then the week after that, we can do our QB carousel. Awesome. We'll know more by then. We'll get more rumors going, and it's going to be a fun offseason. Hopefully, you guys stick with us. We got a ton coming, and this was a really fun show. So thank you for everyone who stuck around, everyone who joined the show. Always more fun to have callers, and that's going to do it for today. Shane, any last things before we close shop?
I got nothing, Cole. It was a great show. It was great doing this. I appreciate everyone hopping on. I appreciate our audience. Our producer, Cameron, you're the man. Thank you, guys.
That's all for today. Take care. Have a good night and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
See you guys.